So the SEC and the US continue their war on crypto, the latest victim being Coinbase, who have now received a Wells notice by the SEC which warns of intentions to take legal action. This is huge. This is the world's second largest exchange after Binance by trading volume. It is huge, and more importantly, it's a publicly listed US company. What is it that the SEC are trying to do? What is it more broadly that the US are trying to do? Because it's clear this Operation Choke Point means business. They are trying to squeeze crypto, and they are claiming an all-out war here in 2023. Despite that, we've got Bitcoin here sitting just shy of $28,000, despite Fed Chairman Jerome Powell coming out yesterday and giving us that 25 basis point rate hike, putting more pressure on traditional finance, putting more pressure on banks. We know that every time the US or any government tries to put crypto back in its lamp, they fail. They end up hurting themselves because ultimately we know their system is the weakest of all. And it doesn't stop there. They've also sued Justin Sun, the founder of Tron. They're saying that TRX and BitTorrent BTT are both unregistered securities. They said he was manipulating the markets as well with extensive wash trading where he was trying to artificially boost the trading volume. But it doesn't stop there, guys. They also say that he paid celebrities such as Lindsay Lohan, Jake Paul, Soulja Boy, Lil Yachty, whoever he is, Neo, Akon, right? All of these people, and they didn't disclose that they were being paid. So they're coming out guns blazing. If you take a look at the mind map I've just pulled up, we've got Paxos. They started off with Paxos and banning BUSD, the second largest stablecoin on the market. Now, they've gone ahead and issued a Wells notice to Coinbase as well. Kraken settled for $30 million with the SEC. Binance, they're stopping their on-ramps, right? Here in the UK, for instance, you cannot on-ramp using GBP onto Binance. They're looking for an alternative. Justin Sun now suing him for BTT and TRX like we just covered. Silvergate, SVB, Signature Bank, all crypto-friendly banks. There aren't many of them. What a coincidence. These are the ones that started to face some turmoil. And there's a lot of rumors going around, which I'm going to cover off shortly, about how these banks are being manipulated to stop them from working with crypto companies. Biden with his 30% mining tax, right, on the electricity being used, and of course, XRP and Ripple. So this is a real coordinated attack on crypto. Anybody who thinks otherwise is being a little bit naive. This list of stuff, plus many more which I would have missed off, doesn't just happen suddenly in a couple of months. We know governments are slow. We know the SEC is slow. Also, we heard overnight that Kraken to suspend ACH deposits and withdrawals following Silvergate shutdown. So the same thing. They're just squeezing all the on-ramps, and eventually they'll squeeze the off-ramps as well. Just like here, this is now an off-ramp being shut off. So you can't even withdraw via ACH. This is a huge problem. This is exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to circle around. If we take a look at Balaji's tweet here, they will eventually try to seize Bitcoin. Eventually, maybe soon. So buy Bitcoin. Get your coins off exchanges and get to a Bitcoin-friendly jurisdiction. This is one of the things that plays on my mind as well. If you're in a country which is not crypto-friendly right now, you need to think about what are you doing, because this whole issue is a banking-related issue. But at the same time, they're using this as an excuse to leverage those banks and tell those banks to stop working with legal crypto companies. Take a look here. Former US Rep Barney Frank has explicitly claimed the shutdown of Signature Bank was intended to send a message to the people away from banking crypto. Reuters reported last week that the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, the FDIC, required Signature's acquirers, whoever acquired Signature, to give up Signature's crypto customers in the sale. This is huge, guys. This is what they're trying to do. And again, this is why it's been referred to as Operation Choke Point 2.0. In the Obama administration back in 2013, they did similar, which was Operation Choke Point, the original, where they were trying to stop people from selling guns and all other kind of things, where they use the same tactic of going to the banks and stopping them from doing business with those legal companies. Okay, so this is a very backhanded tactic, and we're seeing that start to play out now in crypto as well. Here's what's interesting about the Coinbase situation. So Brian Armstrong came out and tweeted to the effect, he said, look, we got a Wells notice, and 2 years ago, the SEC reviewed our business in detail and approved Coinbase to go public. Our S1 clearly explained our asset listing process and included 57 references to staking, etc., etc. And this is when you know that the US government are targeting companies. If you were to pick the best student in the classroom, it is Coinbase. Coinbase, from the day dot, have said, we want to be a US publicly listed company. We want to be approved by the SEC. We want them to look at everything. Come into our company anytime. Ask us any questions. Tell us what your guidelines are. We're going to follow them, right? This is not trying to be some offshore company in a different place like FTX, right? And we saw what the SEC did for FTX. Absolutely nothing. So this whole premise that they're trying to protect investors is completely ludicrous. You had an exchange on the one side, which was huge in FTX, sat in the Bahamas, not open, not doing anything, giving backhanded donations to political parties, not being pursued. And then you have Brian Armstrong on this side, trying to do everything, like the perfect model student, following the textbook, saying, hey, SEC, you just tell me, what do you want me to do? And I'm going to do it. And he said they're purposely almost trying to be obtuse. Like they're just not forthcoming with details. They don't tell us what's going on, right? If you give us the guidelines, then we can adhere to them. But this is the game that Gary Gensler and the SEC are doing. They're purposely not making it clear what their guidance is. Because if they had clear guidance, clear regulatory framework, then companies can either follow it or not follow it, and they shouldn't be surprised by seeing a Wells notice. But now we're seeing companies are being shocked by receiving a Wells notice. Paxos with the BUSD, Coinbase now. They're not expecting it. They don't know what framework they're supposed to be working on. It's not like Coinbase are trying to hide and do dodgy stuff. They're a publicly listed company. Like they said, 2 years ago, before the IPO, SEC thoroughly went through all the documentation and approved them to go public. So what is this? This is all a part of a bigger agenda. They're purposely being difficult. They're purposely not telling Coinbase or the team what frameworks they're supposed to follow. And this is hugely frustrating. You're trying to build a business and you don't know what framework. And Brian Armstrong's been shouting about this for years. He's been tweeting in his fairness about this for years, saying, just be clear, just tell us what we need to do. We're willing to do it. Just make it clear to us. But here's the thing. In Coinbase, they've picked a big battle. And that could be the downfall for the SEC and their battle against crypto. We've seen how they're struggling with XRP Ripple. We saw that they settled with Kraken. We saw what they've issued a Wells notice to Paxos. But now Coinbase, it's not just the fact that Coinbase is heavily funded, but it's the fact that they follow everything by the book. The SEC are going to have a really tough time battling Brian Armstrong. And Brian Armstrong is coming out strong saying, look, if this needs to go to court, we're ready, right? We'll be there. We're excited to work with all government and regulators around the world who are focused on putting in place clear rules to regulate the crypto industry. Coinbase will continue to do what we do best, build the most trusted products. Going forward, the legal process will provide an open and public forum before an unbiased body where we will be able to make clear for all to see that the SEC simply has not been fair, reasonable, or even demonstrated a seriousness of purpose when it comes to its engagement on digital assets. So he's making his stance clear, and that's going to be a big battle which we're going to have to watch, and we have to support, right? We have to rally behind Brian Armstrong. If he asks us to give us some support, I think all the key leaders of the major crypto companies, I know Brian Armstrong has held dinners over the last couple of weeks with some of them. He probably did see this coming. He was having, a lot of meetings with the top CEOs of crypto companies. They need to rally together. They really need to support and set a precedence that the SEC cannot just overstep without clear regulatory framework. Despite all of that, Bitcoin sitting at 27,600. What a beautiful sight to see. Despite Jerome Powell trying to rug pull markets yesterday with his 25 basis points. And by the way, there was so many inaccuracies in what Jerome Powell says. He really did show that he doesn't know what is going on. Make sure you go watch the live stream from yesterday to catch up on exactly what was said. I've timestamped that. I also did a summary video where you can catch up on everything that was said in 10 minutes as well. So go watch those on the channel and get caught up with what was said, because Jerome Powell really did do his best. But crypto is sitting nice. You can see here, it didn't even need to come down to this orange line, which we had drawn at 26,000. It's holding support nicely. It started rotating. If we zoom down, let's look at this on the hourly chart. You can see big fall down from our triangle pattern and held support nicely at 26.7. Those were the lowest prices we saw yesterday as Jerome Powell was speaking. And then we've seen a nice recovery up. Now it's going to be critical for Bitcoin to create a higher high. We can't see lower highs because otherwise that's going to cause us a bit of a problem. What we don't want is this, right? We don't want to start trending down and have a big retest. If we do, you guys know 25,000 is that level, that yellow line there is the level where I'll be looking to nibble. If we get to this orange line at 26, I'll nibble a little bit, but my chunks will be a lot bigger at 25 because that is the level I've been calling for a couple of days now, because that will be a retest of an important level. If you look at where it is, 25, we got rejected here, we got rejected here, and finally we broke through. So to come back down and retest 25 is perfectly fine. If I show you here on the 4 hourly, you guys know we've been monitoring this ascending broadening wedge. And what was I shouting out the last couple of days? Guys, don't worry if we retest the wedge. And that's exactly where we're bouncing, is the top of this wedge. Now, what we don't want to see, like I just said, is a lower high and start breaking back down into our wedge. Then I'm looking for 25k to hold as support as per the other patterns we were looking at. Similarly, if you look at this channel, it's coming back down. It's trying to come back down to retest. And also, if we monitor our rising wedge, that broke down as we expected. And our head and shoulders pattern continues to show strength heading towards our bigger price target. And that's what we're looking for. We're still on track here on Bitcoin to really fight for this 28 to 32 range. It won't be easy, but that's the next level we want to be looking at, where this cluster of resistance is here. We're just getting rejected from there. But once we collect some support, wherever that decides to be, can we go and mount a proper attack at that 29,000 mark, get it, and try to work towards 32? Not going to be easy, but once we clear through 32, things do look better on the other side. One thing is for sure, people are starting to understand that the banks are in a big pickle, right? Increasing base interest rates by another 25 base points doesn't help the situation. Banks will be squeezing even more, and do not be surprised to see more banks raise the fire alarm to say we're in trouble. Raise our hands and say we're in trouble. FDIC, can you back our depositors too, since you did it for everybody else? Can you print more money? And that's going to be good for Bitcoin. So yes, we need to be patient. Yes, we need to play the long game. Maybe there's going to be a few more rate hikes, right? You can see here the market's pricing in a pause at the next meeting currently, but pretty much half the market expects another 25 basis points. So but we're close. We're close. One thing is for sure from yesterday at Jerome Powell's press conference. We are close to the end. There's not going to be many more rate hikes. He's trying to say that there's not going to be any cuts this year. And that's what markets didn't like. Because the markets were pricing cuts from summer. From the middle of this year, they were expecting that maybe we'll see some price cuts. He's saying no, absolutely not. And in fact, he even increased the projection for the Fed funds rate at the end of 2024 up slightly as well. But that doesn't mean that's what he's going to do. He said it himself. Our projections are not a plan. Now, those were his words. It's not a plan. They're going to move with the data. So do not be surprised to see that's what he's doing to remain a united front, to stop any panic in the markets, to stop people saying, oh no, the banks are in trouble. So he keeps a strong foot yesterday. But don't be surprised to see in the next coming meetings, you've got May the 3rd is one meeting, then you've got June the 14th, and then July the 26th. Don't be surprised to see at one of these meetings, he comes out and goes, oh, look, we're making a lot of progress now. We can start and do an emergency 100 basis point cut. So don't listen to his Fed funds projections. They change their mind all the time as and when the data comes. So we'll have to see how that plays out over the next few months. Jumping back into the Bitcoin chart, you can also see Phantom moving very strongly as well. If we drop down here to the far, you can see Phantom trying its best to hold this triangle. Again, if we do lose this triangle, look for 38 cents as some support. It will, of course, depend on Bitcoin and Bitcoin strength. If we can break to the upside from the triangle, I'm looking towards 58 cents. In other news, we do need to look out for the Arbitrum airdrop. I'm not going to be FOMOing in on this one, right? If you guys have claimed an airdrop, if you've received some free Arbitrum, don't just leave it sat there in your wallet. Put it to work. BYBIT are offering you guys a deposit 250 ARBs. If you've got 250 ARBs, straight away you're going to get 25 US dollars. Then you can stake the ARB and win a share of up to 150,000 ARBs as well. Okay, so definitely take a look at some of these offers that they've got going on. Links in the description, ijaz.uk/BYBIT. That is, of course, an affiliate link. You guys know I use that and it supports the channel. The war on crypto continues, but what do we know? Bitcoin is built out of resilience against people trying to FUD it. It continues to prove the doubters wrong, continues to move from strength to strength. And the reality is, all we need to wait for is one of two things. Either the banking crisis continues and the governments have to inject liquidity in an emergency manner like they've just done. Remember, in 1 week, they unwound a year of quantitative tightening. A year of quantitative tightening. Or the other scenario, if banks are fine and they really manage to prop it up and calm everyone down, which I don't know how they're going to pull off, then we just need to wait for inflation to slightly cool off. And the reality is, at some point, Jerome Powell has to let go of his stubbornness and start to reduce rates. He really is affecting people's livelihoods in the States. They are feeling the pinch. Speak to anybody. Speak to business people. Speak to local people on the ground level. They are feeling the pinch at the petrol pumps, at the grocery stores, with their mortgages, with their car finances. And he cannot continue much longer with this rate hike. And we know once that U-turn comes in, once we get that pause, once we get that cut, Bitcoin is going to flourish. Guys, don't forget to smash the likes. Don't forget to subscribe. As always, check out the links in the description. And I'll see you in the next one.